Well, we're just completing those final safety checks before we can get underway with this CCI two-star competition. So this CCI two-star section led by the very first horse to present in front of the ground jury of Anibal Marianito for Portugal, Dane Rawlins, the president for Great Britain, and Donald Keir for Great Britain. So we now have a green light at the start, and our very first horse to go could in fact, well, is our dressage leader, so it'll be a good gauge of the time as well. Sam, great across the country. New ride for him, however. He's riding for Jane Delmessier here with Cooley Currency. 44.4 the dressage score, our dressage leader first out on course. $41 to come forward to the cross country in the CCI two-star competition. So green light at the start will very shortly be underway. If you are out there walking the course, just be aware we are on a different track now, green numbered obstacles. And so horses coming from a slightly different angle. Do just keep your wits about you. Be listening out for fence judges' whistles. Keep off the track and keep your dogs on leads at all times here at the Blair Castle Equitrek International Horse Trials and Country Fair. So just about to get underway.
Our first start underway. Sam Aykroyd, Cooley Currency. They're clearly the first, the Equitrek Flower Box at 1. A trailblazer for this CCI two-star competition. Distance of 5,300 metres, optimum time of 9 minutes 39. For the second goes Cooley Currency and Sam Aykroyd of the BHS Scotland, Shepherd's Hut at 2.
So as Cooley Currency and Sam Aykroyd head on to the dip-backed flower box, they'll be followed out on course by Sammy Oliver. Sammy rides Justine Gutsi Van Tuchot, 58.7 the dressage score here in 26th position. First two-star for Justine Gutsi Van Tuchot. So this combination, number 222 in this section. Clear of the first of the combinations, the jewelled bodies at 4A and B. Cooley Currency, Sam Aykroyd move towards the Event Rider Masters brush parallel at 5. Well, several of the combinations on this course are just similar to the questions asked on the one-star track, but with an increased level of difficulty. Cooley Currency and Sam Aykroyd have jumped the 5th as Justine Gutsi Van Tuchot and Sammy Oliver join us on course. They jump the Equitrek Flower Box, the first of the 26 fences out on course.
Cooley Currency, Sam Aykroyd up at the 6th. That's Billy's Horsefields, double of brush logs. Just to wait news for that to come through. Sam riding for Mrs. Jane Delmessier. Here he approaches the first of these brush combinations. Going the direct route, no problems there for Cooley Currency. Black Gelding, 9-year-old, 78 points on their card. They just swing right-handed, a different route to the CCI one-star earlier. through the trees, then jump the log on the exit route from the trees. Sammy Oliver, Justin Guzzi van der Schoot over the second. BHS Scotland's Shepherd's Hut at 2.
Clear of the third, the dip back flower box, Justine Guzzi van der Schoot and Sammy Oliver. They head on towards the Jules Bodies at 4A and B as Cooley Currency and Sam Aykroyd, our trailblazers, approach the Equitrek lobster pots and boats. That's the first of the water complexes, and they are clear of the 3 elements there. So they head on to the Aardvark Safaris open ditch, the 10th out on course. Jump beautifully clear there.
Next to start will be Josh Haynes riding for Joe Chalmers. Mystic Million. They come forward with a dressage score of 60.7. Left them in 28th position overnight. Cooley Currency approaching the ultra-bed shavings of Viaduct table at 11. Just see Sam Aykroyd appear back through the trees. Justine Guzzi van der Schoot and Sammy Oliver at the 6AB, the Bailey's Horse Feeds, double of brush logs. No problems for Cooley Currency over the ultra-bed shavings of Viaduct table 11. Now at the House of Brewer double of corners. 2 corners on the right-hand side option this time for the 2-star. No problems. Cooley Currency straight as a die through both elements of the corners. Sam comes down the hill and swings left-handed towards the Buddha Parapet wall at 13.
The log at 7, jumped by Sammy Oliver and Justine Guzzi van der Schoot. They now take on the Scotland's charity air ambulance parallel, so they have the 3 elements of the Equitrek water ahead of them. The lobster pots and boats, they jump the 3 elements there at 9A, B and C. So out of that water, they'll head to the Aardvark Safaris open ditches. Mystic Million, Josh Haynes, they clear the BHS Scotland Shepherd's Hut.
No problems for Cooley Currency, Sam Aykroyd. Both elements of the Land Rover hang log are ahead at 14.15. Now approaches the park rails at 16 before he comes back down into the main park to the Malcolm Locken at 17.
Justine Guzzi van der Schoot and Sammy Oliver. They're right up towards the ultra-bed shavings viaduct table. That's the 11th fence out on course. They're still galloping strongly. They jump clear of that, get a little bit close to it, but they have the House of Brewer double of corners ahead of them. 2 right-hand brush corners. Risk of a run out there to the right-hand side, and no such problems for Sammy Oliver and Justine Guzzi van der Schoot.
No problems at the 16th for Cooley Currency, Sam Aykroyd. Sam now comes on the long run to the Malcolm Locken at 17 AB. Just a different direction, Claire, to what we did in the CCI 1-star. They swing back behind the mounds and jump it across the opposite direction.
Yes, and Sam Aykroyd, Cooley Currency, absolutely beautifully clear there. As the Bruder Parapet wall is jumped by Justine Guzzi van der Schoot and Sammy Oliver. Josh Haynes and Mystic Million, they've left the Event Rider Masters brush parallel behind them. And next to start, it's Stephen Way. Stephen riding his own Jenny Tanner and Mel Way's Da Vinci Beakhoover. 60.8 dressage for them. 225 their number in this section. They're underway, clear of the first 2.
It's Cooley Currency and Sam Aykroyd at the James Jones and Log Drop Timber Cart at 18A and B. We just see them clear of that. Now Sam comes up towards the ULearn School of Motoring entry fence at 19.
Mystic Million and Josh Haynes. They'll be approaching the log at 7. So this is where the CCI 1-star and 2-star track just differ slightly. A little bit of extra distance given to these 2-star competitors. They go through the woodland, jump out of the woodland over a log, and then go to that Scotland Charity Air Ambulance parallel. Frangible pins on the front and back rails there. They then go down into the Equitrek water, jump the lobster pots, and go up the step and clear of the sea element there.
No problems at the 4th for Da Vinci Cove and Stephen Way. That's the Jules Bothies. Next for them will be the ERM Brush Parallel at 5 as of the 20th. Our Trailblazer, Cooley Currency and Sam Aykroyd. And well clear of the Albert Bartlett Vegetable Box at 20.
Next to start, it's Hazel Towers. Hazel rides Simply Clover. 59.6 dressage for this combination, number 226 in this section. Well, you watched Cooley Currency, Sam Aykroyd through the Vetzel combination. Craig?
Copybook through there for Cooley Currency and Sam Aykroyd. No problems through all 3 elements of the Vetzel's Rail Ditch and Rails complex at 21 and 22. So that's our Trailblazer coming very close to going. It'll be interesting to pick up their time as they get towards the latter stages of the course.
Mystic Million, Josh Haynes. No hesitation at the Ultra Bed Shavings viaduct table. They have the House of Brewer double of corners ahead of them. As Cooley Currency and Sam Aykroyd approach the Event Scotland angled brushes at 25A and B. Da Vinci Beak Hoover and Stephen Way clear of the Bailey's Horse Feeds double of brush logs.
No problems for Cooley Currency and Sam Aykroyd as he jumps the penultimate on course. The Event Scotland's angled brushes at 25AB. You just see Sam set up for the final fence, the top spec final fling at 26. Pops over the final fence and through the finish. We'll bring you that time as soon as that comes through. A new starter is Simply Clover and Hazel Towers. They're over the second. The BHS Scotland's Shepherd Hut at 2.
Well, at the Land Rover Hanging Log and Arrowhead, Mystic Million and Josh Haynes do a good job there. They took the white flag with them, but they were the correct side of that flag at the Land Rover Arrowhead. They head on to the park rails as Justine Gutsy, Van der Show, Sammy Oliver jumped their way clear of the Vetzel rails, ditch and rails at 21 and 22A and B. And Simply Clover, Hazel Towers, they move to the Jules Bothies at 4A and B.
Stephen Way approaching the Ultra Bed Shavings viaduct table at 11. Da Vinci Vanderbeek Cove just takes a strong hold as they approach the Ultra Beds Shavings viaduct table at 11. No problems are clear. Now Stephen just settling down the big gelding for the House of Brewer, double of course, unfortunately ducks out the last minute there for Da Vinci Bickerhove. Stephen just turns back for the second attempt. Jump over 12A at this second attempt. And clear 12B, we understand, at the House of Brewer double of corner, so unfortunately pick up 20 penalties. A new starter. This is Catherine Haig riding Tim Haig's Cooley timepiece. They set out with a dressage score of 61.7, which left them in 30 position.
Well, Mystic Million, Josh Haynes through the Malcolm Group Locken. They approach the James Jones and Sons log drop and timber cart as Justine Gutsy, Van der Show and Sammy Oliver, they go on to complete. Clearing the sixth, the Bailey's Horse Feeds double of brushes. It's Simply Clover and Hazel Towers who now approach the log at 7. whilst the Land Rover Arrowhead that follows the hanging log at 15 has been jumped by Da Vinci Beekuver and Stephen Way. And our latest starter underway is Catherine Haig and Cooley Timepiece. They're clear of the first three.
Over the 7th, that's the log, goes Simply Clover and Hazel Towers. They come out of the trees now, jump the imposing Scotland Charity Airmen. This is parallel at 8 before they drop down to the Equitrek lobster pots and boats at 9 ABC.
Well, getting quite close to the Ulan School of Motoring Aintree fence, Mystic Million, Josh Haynes approach the Albert Bartlett vegetable box as their next fence on course. So we're just curving round, slightly left-handed to that vegetable box. As the 10th, the Aardvark Safari's open ditch is jumped well by Hazel Towers and Simply Clover. As Catherine Haig and Cooley Timepiece on to the ERM brush parallel.
Stephen Way, Da Vinci Beekuver, well clear of all elements of the Malcolm Group lock-in at 17AB. As we see Mystic Million, Josh Haynes through all elements of the Vetzel rails, ditch and rails at 21-22.
So Mystic Million and Josh Haynes jumping the Witchanger Barton Saddlery Trakehner and galloping onto the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole. They are the furthest round, whilst Da Vinci Beekuver and Stephen Way have just cleared the James Jones and Sons log drop and timber cart. They turn back through 180 degrees back on themselves on towards the Ulan School of Motoring Aintree fence as Catherine Haig, Cooley Timepiece, confidently clear of the Bailey's Horsefeed's double of brush logs at 6A and B.
Next starter will be Daniel Scott riding Ernie Jameson's Albert Scott Mr. Nice Guy. They're away with the first. Daniel sets off in 10th position, 52 was their dressage. Mystic Million, Josh Haynes, no problems through the Event Scotland angle brushes at 25A and B. Just comes towards the final fence, the top spec final fling. Over the second, Daniel Scott and Albert Scott, Mr. Nice Guy. The colour gelding, 8-year-old by Miley.
Well, Mystic Million, Josh Haynes complete a good clear round across the country. A couple of scores in. Firstly, for our trailblazer, Cooley Currency and Sam Eckroyd. Well, they finished clear jumping, but 20.4 time. So take a score of 64.8 forward to the show jumping tomorrow. And in second place, it's Justine Gutsy-Van ter Show and Sammy Oliver. Clear jumping 19.6 times, so their two-phase total 78.3.
Cooley Timepiece, Catherine Haig. They're approaching the Ultra Bed Shavings Viaduct Table 11. Because Ultra Bed Shavings, Blair stable sponsor, premium quality compact wood shavings. Dust extracted source, so great shavings, biodegradable. Ultra Bed, sponsors of the Blair stables. In towards the Malcolm Group lock and goes Simply Clover and Hazel Towers. Not hanging about through both elements of the lock-in.
Well, Cooley Timepiece and Catherine Haig effortlessly clear of the House of Brewer double of corners. As next to start, Josephine Schnaufer for Germany with Vivian 47. 45.8 dressage. Second position after that first phase. She's underway and approaching the BHS Scotland Shepherd's Hut at 2. Ahead of her, Daniel Scott and Albert Scott, Mr. Nice Guy, approach the Bailey's Horsefeed's double of brush logs. Whilst over at the Land Rover hanging log at 14, Catherine Haig and Cooley Timepiece jump down over that hanging log, stay very straight and clear the Land Rover Arrowhead at 15. Well, as we go up a level later on this afternoon. Those skinny fences get even skinnier, so I suspect that that could be an influential fence over there later on this afternoon.
Absolutely, Claire. Them two skinny brushes after the log in the 3-star will be a real tough question for them 3 stars. As Stephen Way, Da Vinci Bikov jumped the final fence. Unfortunately picked up those 20 penalties at 12A. So over there goes Daniel Scott. Alva Scott, Mr. Nice Guy. The Scotland Charity Ambulance parallel behind them.
Well, a score for Josh Haynes and Joe Chambers, Mystic Million. Clear jumping, 25.2 time. They go forward to the show jumping tomorrow on 85.9.
Cooley timepiece, Catherine Haig, Ryan husband Tim Higgs. 8-year-old gelding approach the Malcolm Group Locken. Over the 21st, the Vet Cells, Rails and Ditch, 4 Simply Clover Hazel Towers. As we see Cooley timepiece, Catherine Higgs swing into the Malcolm Locken. Of course, the Malcolm Group need no introduction to eventing in Scotland. Great supporters of eventing in Scotland. No problems there for Cooley timepiece.
Well, as Vivian 47 and Josephine Schnaufer head on to the 6th. Next to start, it's Annette Higgins for Great Britain. She's riding MGH Cruzado Street, an 8-year-old roan gelding by Ricardo Z. 65.8 the dressage score. 231 their number in your programs. Alva Scott, Mr. Nice Guy and Daniel Scott. They've jumped well clear of the House of Brewer, double of corners at 12A and B, whilst, well, Hazel Towers, Simply Clover, having a flying round clear of the Event Scotland angled brushes at 25A and B. They move on to the top spec final fling, which they clear.
Cooley timepiece up towards the 19th Ullin School. Motoring entry fence. New starter, MGH Cruzado Street, and Annette Higgins are away with the first, the Equitrek flower box. As we see Alva Scott, Mr. Nice Guy, Daniel Scott riding for Ernie Jameson over the Land Rover hanging log and straight as a die through the Land Rover Arrowhead at 15. These two fences separately numbered, so you could circle between 14 and 15, but not for Daniel Scott. Straight route there, go the whole way.
A score for Stephen Way for Australia with Da Vinci Beekhoover. 20 jumping penalties, 26 time for them to take forward to the show jumping. Next to start, it's Rebecca Howard for Canada. She's riding Lucinda Fredericks, Britannia's Mail. 50.7 dressage, 7th position after that first phase. 233, their number in Section C. Well, if you are here at Blair Castle International Horse Trials with your camera, we do welcome you and encourage you to take photos of these horses and riders jumping these huge fences as a memento of your day. But please, please, if you have a flash on your camera, ensure that your flash is not on, particularly in the wooded areas. Your camera may use an automatic flash, but please, it's been said before, no flashing on course at Blair Castle.
Cooley timepiece, Catherine Haig decides to take the alternative route at the 21st. They get clear and now well clear of the White Ginger Barton Saddle Chicane at 23. We see Daniel Scott approaching the James Jones and Sons logged up timber cart at 18 AB. No problems there for the coloured gelding.
Alva Scott, Mr. Nice Guy, as Craig said, on towards that Aintree fence at 19 was Vivian 47 and Josephine Schnaufer absolutely beautifully clear of the Land Rover hanging log and Arrowhead. Remember, this combination was second after the first phase, have a dressage score of 45.8 and certainly going well so far. as MGH Cruzado Street and Annette Higgins have jumped clear of the 6th. They'll go into the woodland before approaching the log at 7.
Cooley timepiece, Catherine Haig jumps the top spec final filling through the finish. Of the 3rd goes Britannia's Mail and Rebecca Howard. Rebecca riding for Lucinda Fredericks. That 50.7 dressage left them in 7th position overnight.
Well, by far our quickest round so far goes to Hazel Towers and Simply Clover. They were they were clear across the country, 10.4 time to take a score of 70 forwards to the show jumping. They go 2nd at the moment, with Cooley Currency, Sam Aykroyd still leading the way.
Alva Scott, Mr. Nice Guy, Daniel Scott well clear. The Albert Bartlett vegetable box at 20. They now go to the Vetsail rails at 20 and 22.
Well, just looking over to the Malcolm Group lock, and Josephine Schnaufer sat very well. Vivian 47, when she jumped over the A element, the barrels just a little bit clumsy, perhaps saw the water behind those barrels just on takeoff. And Vivian 47, well, clumsy jump, but Josephine sits tight, and they head on with their record unscathed to the James Jones and Sons log drop and timber cart.
Britannia's Mail, Rebecca Howard, they approach the 6A and B. The Bailey's Horse feeds, double brush logs. These 2 brushes with the 2 differences. You can go down the right-hand suit and swing a bit left-handed for a slightly safer option. Daniel Scott, Alva Scott, Mr. Nice Guy at the penultimate combination, the Event Scotland angle brushes. Over the first of the brushes and the second brush, so no problems there for Alva Scott, Mr. Nice Guy, Daniel Scott. Daniel now goes to the top spec final filling at 26. New starter, Cool Rock, Wacko Jacko and Nana Dalton. Nana sets out with a dressage score of 53. They're over the first. Alva's got Mr. Nice Guy. Daniel Scott jumps the final fence and through the finish.
Well, as the Ulan School of Motoring A-tree fence is jumped by Vivian 47. Underway, Cool Rock, Wacko Jacko, Nana Dalton jump the first 2, and MGH Cruzado Street and Annette Higgins, we catch up with them as they make their way to the parapet wall. Jump that, so it's downhill to the Land Rover, Hanging Log and Arrowhead. Real test of these riders to be able to balance their horses. We were talking earlier about the horses running downhill on their forehand, and this is where this cross-country test does go back to their training in the dressage arena as well. Well, Annette Higgins and MGH Cruzado Street just head away from that 15th fence as Vivian 47 and Josephine Schnaufer have jumped the Vetsail rail, ditch and rails at 21 and 22.
Britannia's Mail, Rebecca Howard over the first of the House of Brewer corners, unfortunately run past the second of those corners at 12B. Just comes back round for the second attempt. Vivian 47, Josephine Schnaufer over the 24th, the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole. Just watch their score as they come towards the latter end of the course. If you get the second attempt at the 12th, the House of Brewer corners for Rebecca Howard and the Bay Stallion, Britannia's Mail.
Next to join us, it's Lucy Grindle. Lucy rides Widam. Well, Widam underway, 52.5 the dressage score here. They're striding out towards the second as MGH Cruzado Street and Annette Higgins over at the Malcolm Group lock and fence. They jump the A element and stand off the B. And just over the last Josephine Schnaufer and Vivian 47 complete. We'll bring you their time as soon as we have it. While a couple of times in, firstly for Daniel Scott and Alva Scott, Mr. Nice Guy. Clear jumping 15.2 time. They take a score of 67.2 forwards to the show jumping into second at the moment.
Over the third, We Dam and Lucy Grindle, that's the dipped back flower box at 3. And over the 8th, Cool Rock, Waka Jacko and Nana Dalton. No problems at the Scotland Charity Ambulance parallel. Britannia's Mail over the 16th, that's the Park Rails. As we can see, MGH Crusader Street and Annette Higgins head up towards the Hewland Motoring entry fence at 19.
Well, a score for Catherine Haig with Tim Haig's Cooley timepiece. Clear jumping 26.4 cross country time. They take a score of 88.1 forward to the show jumping.
Next to start will be Storm Straker and Well Designed. Just circling at the start box. Well Designed recently was third at Bergam CIC. Into the Malcolm Group lock-in goes Britannia's Mail and Rebecca Howard through the water quite boldly. Pings out over the 17B, that's the second of those barrels.
MGH Cruzado Street and Annette Higgins. They jump the Albert Bartlett vegetable boxes. Kwako Jacko, Nana Dalton. A neat job of jumping the Ultra Bed Shavings Viaduct table. Britannia's Mail, Rebecca Howard. Jumps the James Jones and Sons log drop and timber cart.
We Dam, Lucy Grindle, well clear of the Bailey's horse feeds, double brush logs. We Dam, 14-year-old Chestnut Gelding by We Dam. 52.5 was their dressage. Unfortunate run out for Nana Dalton and Cool Rock Waka Jacko at the second part of the House of Brewer corners. Clear at the second attempt. Well designed Storm Straker, they're away over the first. Now head out to the BHS Scotland Shepherd's Hut at 2.
Well, as MGH Cruzado Street and Annette Higgins furthest around, they head on to the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole. Redam, Lucy Grindle, strongly clear of the Equitrek water. They head on to the Aardvark Safaris open ditch, and Kurok Kwako Jacko and Nana Dalton, they are heading on to the park rails, having successfully negotiated the Land Rover Arrowhead.
Over the 20th, Britannia's Mail, that's the Albert Bartlett vegetable box. Of course, Albert Bartlett needs no introduction, a family-run business, been growing potatoes for some 60 years. Supply more than 20% of the UK's fresh potatoes. So Albert Bartlett potato box behind Britannia's Mail. MGH Crusader Street. Annette Higgins jumps the final fence and through the finish. Next to start will be Early Spring and Olivia Bartlett. They come forward with a 53.7 dressage. It's their second CCI 2-star together.
Well, Britannia's Mail, Rebecca Howard heading on to the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole. Well-designed Storm Straker. Great leap at the Event Rider Masters brush parallel. Whilst Kurok Wako Jacko and Nana Dalton, they'll be looking towards the Malcolm Group lock-in. There they are. Jump the barrels and gallop across that water, jump the barrels on the far side. So on towards the James Jones and Sons log drop and timber cart they go. And away goes Early Spring and Olivia Bartlett. They're clear of the Equitrek flower box and the BHS Scotland Shepherd's Hut at 1 and 2.
We Dam and Lucy Grindle fly through the Land Rover Hanging Log and Arrowheads at 14.15. No problems there for the Chestnut Gelding. Britannia's male pops over the top spec final fling and through the finish. Unfortunately, just picked up those 20 penalties at the House of Brewer corners.
Early Spring and Olivia Bartlett jump the dip back flower box and head on to that first combination on course, the Jules sponsored bothies at 4A and B. Well, the ninth, that's the Equitrek Lobster pots, have been jumped by Storm Straker and well designed, so they jump out of the Equitrek water, curve left-handed and move on to the Aardvark Safari's open ditch. And next to start, it's Emma Chammings. Emma rides Trefine Sovereign, 10-year-old mare by the Poet, 69.3, their dressage score.
Coolrock, Wacko Jacko, Nana Dalton, well clear of the 19th. The Ulan School of Motoring, Aintree Fence as Early Spring. Olivia Bartlett over the 5th, the ARM Brush Powerline at 5. Fly through the Malcolm Locken for Weedam and Lucy Grindle. She's having a great ride as they approach the Jim Jones and Sons log drop timber cart at 18A and B.
Well, a score just coming through for Josephine Schnaufer and Vivian, 47 for Germany. Clear jumping, 22.4 time. So they take a score of 68.2 forward to the show jumping. They drop down into 3rd place with those time faults. So time faults proving absolutely crucial here in this 2-star competition. And a score for MGH Cruzado Street and Annette Higgins. Steady round, 38.4 time for them.
No problems for Well Designed and Storm Straker through both elements of the House of Brewer double of corners at 12A and B. Now over the Brooder Fahrenheit roll at 13, down through the gardens of Blair Castle. Next for them will be the Land Rover Hanging Logs at 14.15. Over the 8th goes Early Spring and Olivia Bartlett. That's the Scotland Charity Air Ambulance. There's no problems for Storm Straker, well designed through both elements of the Land Rover Hanging Log and Arrowheads. Triffion Sovereign, Emma Chammings, they're away over the 1st. Swing left-handed to the 2nd to the BHS Scotland's Shepherd's Hut at 2. Clear 9, A, B, C. That's the Equitrek Lob Spots and Boats. 4 stop. Early Spring and Olivia Bartlett.
Well, Coolrock, Wacko, Jacko, Nana Dalton, they go on to complete over the top spec final fling as Widam and Lucy Grindle. They approach the Vetzel rails, ditch and rails. They've jumped very cleanly clear of the 2 fences there. Head on to the Witchanger Barton Saddlery Trakehner, which they clear. And next to start, it's Louise Harwood. Louise rides Gillian Davies, Breckfer Medrod. 52, the score they bring forwards, left them in 10th position after that first phase. Number 244, their number in this section.
Number 17, AB, the Malcolm Group Locken, 4 well designed Storm Straker, as Early String. And Olivia Bartlett well give the 12th. The House of Brewer double of corners. Triffion Sovereign, Emma Chammings well give the 4th. The Jules Bothies, of course Jules, the official clothing sponsor.
Well designed, Storm Straker, having a great round so far, and 8th position after that first phase. So they head on to the Ulearn School of Motoring Aintree Fence as the 5th. The Event Rider Masters Brush Parallel is jumped by Emma Chammings and Trefine Sovereign. Oh, what a shame. Right near the end of the course, Weedam and Lucy Grindle pick up a refusal at the 2nd of the Event Scotland angled brushes. So they'll come round to represent at that 2nd brush. Oh, and jump it this time. So how frustrating. So close to home, picking up those 20 penalties there.
Treefield Sovereign, Emma Shavings up at the top end of the course at the 6th fence. That's Billy's Horsefields double of brushes. As over the 16th, Early Spring and Olivia Bartlett, the park rails with the final fence. We Dam, Lucy Grindle, unfortunately just picked up those 20 penalties at the end of the course. Well designed Storm Striker approaching the Vetzel rails and the ditch at 22. Louise Harbord riding Jillian Davis's Chef Madrad away over the 4th, Jules Bothies. Of the 8th, the Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance Parallel 4, Emma Shambanks. They come forward with a 69.3 dressage. Next to start will be another ride for Kirsty Johnson, riding John Johnson's and Carol Summers. Classic the 6th, with a dressage score of 51.2. We have 17 A, B, the Malcolm Group Locken for Early Spring and Olivia Bartlett. So second CCI 2-star competition as a combination. No problems for Storm Striker through the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole at 24. No. Louise Harwood well clear of the RM Brush Parallel at 5. As Early Spring, Olivia Bartlett. Of the 18th, the James Jones Sons Log Drop Timber Cart. They have the long run up to the ULearn School of Motoring entry fence at 19. Over 25, A, B. That's the Event Scotland Angle Brushes 4. Well designed Storm Striker. Storm going very well as they approach the final fence and fly over the final fence and through the finish. Early Spring, Olivia Bartlett approaching the ULearn School of Motoring entry fence at 19.
The ULearn School of Motoring entry fence cleared by Early Spring and Olivia Bartlett. They head on to another relatively straightforward fence at 20, the Albert Bartlett vegetable box, whilst Trefine Sovereign and Emma Chammings they're galloping over the Bruder parapet wall. So it's the Land Rover hanging log and Arrowhead at 14 and 15 that will await them. As underway goes Classic the 6th and Kirsty Johnston clear of the Equitrek flower box. They jump the BHS Scotland Shepherd's Hut. Furthest round, the Vetzel rails have been jumped by Olivia Bartlett and Early Spring. They then jump the Vetzel ditch and rails and take on the Whitchanger Barton Saddlery Trakehner.
Nicely of the 10th, the Aardvark Safaris open ditch for Louise Harwood. Compete the 3-star last year, set out with a 52 dressage in 10th position. Classic the 6th, Kirsty Johnson clear the 3rd, that's the dip back flower box. Early Spring, no problems through the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole at 24. Olivia Bartlett just coming very close to home. Of the 11th. That's the Ultra-Red Shavings Viaduct table for Louise Hardwood. Now over the House of Brewer double corners at 12 A and B. Strongly into the water complex for Emma Chammings. That's the Malcolm Group Locken.
Clearing the Event Rider Masters Brush Parallel, Classic the 6th and Kirsty Johnston. They head on to the Bailey Horsefeeds double of brushes at 6 A and B. As ahead of them, Louise Harwood and Breckford Medrod head on to the parapet wall. They jump clear of that, and it's Primo and Bryony Wilton who are underway and clear of the first.
Early Spring, Olivia Bartlett jumped the final fence and through the finish. Kirsty Johnson, Classic the 6th. Up at the 6th, that's the Bailey's Horsefeeds double of brush logs. Primo the third. Bryony Wilson, homebred by Mildover the second. WHS Scotland's Shepherd's Hutter 2. Louise Harwood making good progress down to the Land Rover Arrowheads at 14.15. Found Sovereign, Emma Shammings. They stride up towards the Ulan School of Motoring entry fence at 19.
Well, a score in for Well Designed and Storm Straker, and what an impressive score it is. They finish in a time of 9 minutes and 29 seconds. That is 10 seconds inside the optimum. They go into the lead in Section C. No one else has come anywhere near that time, so that is very impressive. Well Designed Storm Straker leading the way as they go into the show, jumping on 50.8.
Well, that's no surprise there, Claire, for Storm Straker. Storm Straker, the niece of Karen Dixon. So eventing in their blood and always fast across the country. Next to start will be Oliver Townend riding Angela Himlop's Choy Traveller. They come forward with a 53.1 dressage. Just awaiting in the start box, as we can see. Louise Harwood approaching the James Jones Sons log drop timber cart at 18 AB. No problems there for the Chestnut Gelding of the 24th. Emma Shammings, that's the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole at 24. Of the 12th, the House Brewer Double Corners for Classic and Kirsty Johnson. Kirsty going well through those double corners, now go to the Brewder Parapet Wall at 13. Of course, Brewder, the Premier Scottish Whisky Liqueur, official drink of the horse trials here at Blair. Also got a trade stand at number 194 in block 16. So do go and pay them a visit. I'm sure they'll give you a wee taste of their whiskey.
Divine and Sovereign and Emma Shammings, they head to and clear the final fence now. So that is a good clear round for them across the country, as the log at 7 has been jumped by Bryony Wilson and Primo the third. And just underway, Coy Traveller and Oliver Townend head on to the second, having jumped the Equitrek flower box.
Swiftly through the Land Rover hang log and Arrowhead for Classic and Kirsty Johnson. Kirsty not hanging about as they approach the 16th, that's the park rails. Louise Harwood well clear of the Albert Bartlett vegetable box and now approach the vet cell rails at 21-22 AB.
Clearing the third, the dip back flower box, Coy Traveller and Oliver Townend, as Primo the third and Bryony Wilson head up to the top of the hill to the Ultra Bed Shavings Viaduct table. And the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole has been jumped now by Breckford Medrod and Louise Harwood.
Over the fourth, Coy Traveller, Oliver Townend, and the next to start should be number 239 in your programme, but Sam Aykroyd decides to withdraw number 239.
Breckford Medrod and Louise Harwood kicking on towards the top spec final fling. They've jumped clear of the Event Scotland angled brushes, as the Event Rider Masters brush parallel is jumped by Coy Traveller and Oliver Townend. And Louise Harwood and Breckford Medrod, they're now home.
Bryony Wilson, Primo the third, well clear of the Brewder Parapet Wall at 13. Now we see them at the Land Rover hanging log at 14. Well clear of the log, sets up for the Arrowhead. Strong riding there for Bryony Wilson, no problems. Well clear of there, they now go to the park rails at 16. You start at Drakkar and Bill Levitt. Bill riding Elizabeth Murdoch's 12-year-old Chestnut Gelding. We have the second, the VHS Scotland's Shepherd's Hut to 2.
Well, Kirsty Johnston and Classic the Sixth, they leave the Ulearn School of Motoring Aintree fence way behind them, head on to the Albert Bartlett vegetable box as Coy Traveller and Oliver Townend approach the Equitrek water complex, jump the A element, and then we'll go to the step up one stride and jump the C. They'll approach the Aardvark Safari's open ditch as their next challenge, whilst Drakkar, Bill Levitt, they jump the third.
Classic 6, Kirsty Johnson approaching the Vetsail rails. No problems with all elements of the rails for Kirsty Johnson. This is Kirsty's third ride of the day. So now go to the Barton Sandwich Chicane at 23.
Primo the third and Bryony Wilson looking towards the Malcolm Group Locken as Coy Traveller and Oliver Townend stride out to the Ultrabed Shavings Viaduct table. And Drakkar and Bill Levitt, they are up at the Bailey's Horse Feeds double of brush logs.
A new starter, Chloe Bell riding Helen Bell's Java Spice. They were the first, and now swinging left-handed to the BHS Scotland's Shepherd's Hut. Drakkar and Bill Levitt cleared the 6, just looked like they swung on the left-handed option round the trees. But clear nonetheless as Bill now heads to the 7th at the log. Classic and Kirsty Johnson well clear through the finish. That's the top spec final fling of the 7th, the log. Drakkar and Bill Levitt as Coy Traveller and Oliver Townend. They're coming towards the Land Rover hanging log and the arrowhead at 14:15. They're well clear of both elements of that. Provisional result here for Olivia Bartlett in early spring. They went round in 10 minutes and 1 second, pick up 8.8 time penalty, to finish on a 2-day total of 62.5, provisionally puts them into second place in this 2-star. As Primo the third, Bryony Wilson well clear of the vet sales, rail ditch and rails complex at 21-22 AB. Another result in for Trifon and Sovereign and Emma Shevings. They go into 8th place, went down 10 minutes 2 seconds, pick up 9.2 time penalty to go forward to show jumping tomorrow with a score of 78.5. Java Spice and Chloe Bell up to the 6th. The Bailey's Horse Feeds double brush logs. Next to start will be Philippa Cross and Scoop de Fabric.
Well, Scoop de Furbe, owned by Tina Haywood and Philippa Cross, ridden by Philippa, 65.2. Their dressage score, as Drakkar and Bill Levitt go clear of the House of Brewer double of corners. Coy Traveller and Oliver Townend, well, they're clear of the second water complex, the Malcolm Group Locken, and speed on to the James Jones and Sons log drop and timber cart. Jump off the log drop, curve right-handed and clear the cart there.
Primo the third, Bryony Wilson well clear of the penultimate, and now the top split final fling through the finish. Into the water complex comes Java Spice and Chloe Bell. Stands well off the lob spot in the middle, strides across, boldly up the step, just scrambles up the step, then over the C element, the second of the lob spots.
Java's Spice then heads to the 10th. There's Coy Traveller and Oliver Townend are the furthest around this 5,300 metre track. They'll be on the gallop to the Ulearn School of Motoring Aintree fence. They jump clear of that. Drakkar, Bill Levitt fly clear of the park rails at 16. Well, they've got a bit of ground to make up after the dressage, but well, if they could stay on that, then they'd rise way up the leaderboard.
Fly the Albert Bartlett vegetable box for Troy Traveller, Oliver Townend, Oliver riding for Angela Hislop, 12-year-old gelding, 103 points on their card. They now approach the Vetsail rails at 21-22.
Bill Levitt and Drakkar through the Malcolm Group locken.
Troy Traveller, Oliver Townend, well clear of all elements of the Vetsail rails and ditch. Oliver now on the run home. Provisional in here for Kirsty Johnson. Classic 6 went round 9 minutes 48, pick up 3.6 time penalties for a 2-day completion score of 54.8. Provisionally goes into second place. Another one for Louise Harwood. Went round 10 minutes 1 second, pick up 8.8 time penalties, 2-day completion score of 60.8. Provisional into third place in the CCI 2-star.
Away goes Morgan Gray and Champagne Charlie the 11th. 71 their dressage score, and they've cleared the first as Coy Traveller, Oliver Townend approach the final fence on course and jump clear of that to complete. A score in for Bryony Wilson and Primo the third. 9.2 time for them. They take a score of 71.8 forward to the show jumping.
Philippa Cross, Scoop de Fabé, well clear of all elements of the Bailey's horse feeds. Double brush logs at 6AB. They now disappear out of our view towards the log at 7. Champagne Charlie clattering the third, that's Morgan Gray. They now disappear towards the Jules Bothies at 4A and B.
Well, an enormous leap at the Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance parallel for Philippa Cross and Scoop de Furby. Very boldly clear of the boat in the water. Jump up the step and take a stride, clear the sea element. They head on to the Aardvark Safaris open ditch. As next to start, it's Matthew Heath for Great Britain. Matthew riding Jatial Limited and Diana Chappell's Aloha. 46.1 the score they bring forwards. That left them in third position after that first phase. 242 their number, so this is one to watch because the lead is held by Well Designed and Storm Straker at the moment on a score of 50.8.
Chloe Bell, Java Spice boldly through the Malcolm Group lock-in at 17AB. Drakkar, Bill Levitt approaching the final combination, the Event Scotland angle bushels at 25, A and B. Next to start will be Aloha and Matthew Heath. Matthew riding for Diana Campbell. They come forward with a dressage of 46.1.
Well, just getting a little bit close to the Ultra Bed Shavings viaduct table. It's Scoop de Furby and Philippa Cross. They are clear of it. They move to the House of Brewer double of corners as Drakkar and Bill Levitt, they go on to complete. Scoop de Furby, Philippa Cross, accurately clear of the House of Brewer double of corners. The Champagne Charlie and Morgan Gray. Well, they will be approaching the Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance parallel. Scotland's Air Ambulance, our charity for the year, so they're here raising money over the weekend. Please do give whatever you can for this wonderful charity. Clear of the first, Aloha and Matt Heath. Clear of the Equitrek flower box they go. They head on to the BHS Scotland Shepherd's Hut.
Java Spice, Chloe Bell, well clear of the Albert Bartlett vegetable box. Now go to the Vetsail rails and ditch. No problems there for Chloe Bell, riding the 12-year-old Bay Mare. As over the 10th, Champagne Charlie, that's the Oddbox Safaris open ditch. You head up the hill towards the Ultra Bed Shavings, viaduct table at 11. Over the 23rd, the Wide Changer Barton, Saddle Ridge Acana for Java Spice and Chloe Bell. Scoop de Febe. Over the 16th, that's the Park Rails. Next for them on course will be the Malcolm Group Locken at 17A and B. Of the 24th, that's the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole for Java Spice Chloe Bell. Chloe Bell having a great round as they come towards close to home, the Event Scotland angled brushes at 25A and B.
Well, Champagne Charlie, Morgan Gray survive a bit of an awkward moment at the first of the House of Brewer double of corners, but they stay straight, keep their line, and Champagne Charlie jumps clear of the second corner. Heading on down then to the Bruder Parapet Wall. As ahead of them, Scoop de Fur Bay, Philippa Cross, absolutely beautifully clear of the Malcolm Group Locken. This 11-year-old gelding really enjoying himself as he heads on to the James Jones and Sons Log Drop and Timber Cart.
Java Spice, Chloe Bell jumped the top spec final fling to finish. Next to start will be Nini French riding Time for Harry. They come forward with a 53 dressage, left them in 14th overnight, away over the Equitrek flower box. Champagne Charlie cleared the Land Rover hanging log at 14, just gets a little close to the Land Rover Arrowhead at 15. Unfortunate refusal for Philippa Cross and Scoop de Fabé at the Timber Cart at 18AB, but clear at the second attempt. It's Matthew Heath not hanging about, well clear of both elements of the Bailey's horse feeds, double brush logs at 6A and B.
Well, underway, Time for Harry and Nini French. They've just jumped the flower box at 3. Head on to that first combination, the Jules Bothies at 4A and B. They'll be followed out on course by Craig Barr and Ian Wills Marley. Marley the third, 56.6 their dressage. And looking to the Equitrek Water Complex, lower Matt Heath, clear of the 3 elements there. They head now to the Aardvark Safaris open ditch.
Philippa Cross, Scoop de Fabé, well clear of the Ulearn School motoring fence at 19.
Well, we've had 1 so far inside the time, and in fact, now just a couple of scores in.
A score in for Oliver Townend and Angela Hislop's Shoy Traveller went round in 9 minutes 34. No time penalty, so finished on that dressage of 53.1. Provisionally puts them into second place in this CCI 2-star.
Well, Drakkar, Bill Levitt also inside the time, 8 seconds inside. So they take their dressage score of 72.5 forward to the show jumping tomorrow. And Java Spice, Chloe Bell, 6.4 time for them. They go forward to the show jumping on 73.7.
Time for Harry, Nini French, well clear of the 6th. The Bailey's horse feeds, double brush logs. Next to start, and away will be Craig Barr and Marley the third. Of the 24th, the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole for Scoop de Fabé, picked up those 20 penalties at 18B. Of the 19th, Champagne Charlie, Morgan Gray. They now head up to the Albert Bartlett vegetable box at 20. Marley the third, Craig Barr, they're away. With the first, the Equitrek flower box at 1.
Very boldly clear of the Equitrek Water Complex. Time for Harry and Nini French, whilst on the latter stages of the course, Scoop de Fabé and Philippa Cross have jumped the Event Scotland angled brushes. They'll gallop on to the top spec final fling.
Time for Harry Nini French stands well off the aardvark as far as open Dritch at 10. Great jump for the primitive proposal side bay gelding. Scoop to Philip across, jumped the final fence through the finish before she picked up those 20 penalties at 18B. Marley the third, Craig Barr up the hill to the dip back flower box at 3.
Aloha and Matthew Heath. They've jumped neatly clear of the Land Rover Arrowhead. They'll approach the park rails whilst up at the top of the hill. Time for Harry Nini French got a little bit close to the Ultra Bed Shavings viaduct table, but they're now clear of the two House of Brewer double of corners.
Marley the third, Craig Barr approaching the Jules Bothies at 4. Well clear the direct route there for Craig Barr. Next to start will be Emily Phillip and Cupid the third. They come forward with a dressage score of 54.8.
Aloha and Matt Heath down at the Malcolm Group Locken. Jump the A element, the barrels into the water. They're now clear of the B. So the next obstacle on course will be the two elements of the James Jones and Sons Log Drop and Timber Cart as Champagne Charlie and Morgan Gray complete.
Time for Harry Nini French quickly through both elements of the Land Rover Hanging Log and the Arrowhead. Cupid the third and Emily Phillip there away of the first. They have that dressage of 54.8.
So the furthest around is Matthew Heath and Aloha. They head on to the Ulearn School of Motoring Aintree Fence as Emily Philp and Cupido, the latest starters, just jumped the first two. They climb uphill to the flower box, the third of the 26 fences out on course.
Time for Harry Nini French well clear of the park rails at 16. So Laura Matthew Heath with just to 8 news for them. Craig Barr, Marley the third stand well back off the Scotland Charities arms, parallel at 8 and bowled into the water complex. Also the lob spot now, the step up to the final element, no problems there for Marley the third. Craig riding for Ian Wills. Next to start will be Joanne Earl riding her own and Anne Earls. Cracking time. Come forward with a dressage score of 57.6. Over the fourth, Emily Phelp and Cupid the third. That's the Jules Bothies. As we can just see, time Harry Nini French approaching the Jim Jones. Laura. Matthew Heath, no problems at the Vetzel Rails and Ditch at 21-22 AB.
Well, as Aloha Matthew Heath jump the Witchanger Barton Saddlery Tricana, they've got the Alm Hole ahead of them and gallop on towards the Event Scotland angled brushes now. Time for Harry and Nini French. Still clear as they head on towards the Ulearn School of Motoring Aintree Fence and Emily Philp and Cupido. Well, very boldly clear of the Bailey's Horse Feeds double of brushes. They will turn their attention to the log at 7.
Time for Harry Nini French not hanging about over the 19th. That's the Ulearn School of Motoring Aintree Fence. Really giving this 9-year-old Bay Gelding a great ride as we see Marley the third, Craig Barr. Jumped the Brooder Farrowhead Wall at 13, now comes down to the Land Rover Hanging Logs at 14 and 15. New starter, Joanne Earl, cracking time there over the first. The Equitrek flower box at 1. Marley the third, Craig Barr, no problems through both elements of the Land Rovers at 14-15. Laura Matthew Heath jumped the final fence and through the finish. That looks to be a very good round. We'll just bring you their score as soon as we get it. This could trouble the leaderboard.
Well, a couple of scores that have come in. Firstly for Scoop de Bay and Philippa Cross, 20 jumping, 24.4 time for them. And for Champagne Charlie and Morgan Gray, clear jumping and 7.2 time sees them take a score of 78.2 forward to show jump.
Cupido the third, Emily Philp well clear of the 10th. The Aardvark Safaris open ditch. Aardvark Safaris, tailor-made safaris from beach holidays to African Indian Oceans. Do pay them a visit. Stand 16, block 1. So they'll be able to come up with a great holiday for you. As you can see, Marley the third, Craig Barr swinging in towards the Malcolm Group lock-in at 17AB.
Time for Harry, Ninny French, smartly clear of the event Scotland, angled brushes. They've just got the last to jump as, ooh, Marley the third, Craig Barr. Marley puts in a big jump over the A element of the Malcolm Group lock, and he's pitched forwards. Does well to stay in the saddle there, regains his balance and jumps the B.
Time for Harry, Ninny French well clear of the finish. Another one that could trouble the leaderboards. Of the fifth, cracking time, Joanne L. That's the RM Brush Parallel, of course the RM to come tomorrow afternoon, the cross-country phase for them.
Emily Philp and Cupido the third, having jumped the House of Brewer double of corners. That's at the top part of the course. This 10-year-old gelding still looks full of running, pulling Emily's arms out as he heads downhill and clear of the Brooder parapet wall.
New starter, Matt Hecking and Hull Bell. Matt riding for Wendy Hecking and himself, Chestnut Mare. Come forward with a 58.2 dressage. Harley Bell, 9-year-old Chestnut Mare. Over the 6, cracking time, and Joanne L. 14-15 behind Cupido and Emily Philp. They now disappear towards the park rails at 16.
A couple of scores in. Firstly for Aloha and Matt Heath. Well, they were third after the dressage, but 14.8 time added to that dressage score just moves them on to a new score of 60.9. Goes fifth, but as I say that, you've got a new score, Craig.
Yeah, time in for Ninny French, time for Harry. She looked like she was having a great round. Just 9 minutes 42. Was their time. We'll just go back to the computer. We just think there's just a mistake with the score for that one. Clear 22AB goes Marley the third and Craig Barrs. Cracking time. Joanne L. fly out over the Aardvark Safaris open ditch. Harley Bell, Matt Hecking. They disappear up towards the 5th fence. That's the RM Brush Parallel. Next to start will be Paul Sims and Lone Star. Just we have that time confirmed. 4 time for Harry Ninny French. 9 minutes 42. Pick up 1.2 time penalty. So they finish on a 54.2 provisional 3rd place in the CCI 2-star.
Clearing the ultra bed shavings, viaduct table. It's cracking time, and Joanne Earl, as Marley the third, Craig Barr, they've cleared the final combination fence, heading on towards the top spec final fling. Emily Philp and Cupido galloping on to the Ulearn School of Motoring Aintree fence, whilst you've got news on Matt Hecking.
Fortunately, news in that Harley Bell run past the 2nd element of 6B, that's the Village Horse Feeds Brush Logs, but cleared the 2nd attempt. So unfortunately, 20 penalties there for Harley Bell. A new starter, Lone Star and Paul Sims is away. They come forward with this 64.2 dressage. Marley the third, Craig Barr jumped the final fence and through the finish. Is over the 19th. Because Cupido the third and Emily Philp. They had that 54.8 dressage, 19th over 9th. Paul Sims over the second, Lone Star, that's over the second. VHS Scotland's Shepherd's Hut as they head up the hill now to the dip back flower box at number 3. Of the 20th, Cupido this third, and Emily Philp, they go to the Vetzel rail and ditch. Just looks like from our monitors, Emily going the alternative option at 21. Just swing out the far side before they come back towards the ditch at 22A.
Dad, good boy.
Well, Cupido heads to the Whitchanger Barton Saddlery Tricana, jumps clear of it as Cracking Time and Joanne Earl will be approaching the Malcolm Group Locken. So they'll just come off that left-hand curve then to the barrels to jump them into that Malcolm Group Locken fence and traverse the water to clear the barrels on the far side.
Harley Bell, Matt Hecking well clear of both elements of the House of Brewer double of corners at 12AB. Horse won the intermediate at Belsey and third at the Chumley Intermediate. Over the fifth, the ERM Brush Parallel for Paul Sims. Lone Star provisional in here for Marley the third, Craig Barr. Went round 9 minutes 49, picked up 4 time penalties, finished on a score of 60.6 in the 2-star, provisional 5th overnight.
Felicia Fagard and Emily King underway. 47 the dressage score, 4th place, so this one to watch as Harley Bell and Matt Hecking gallop away from the Land Rover, Hanging Log and Arrowhead. Cupido jumps the last with Emily Philp and Paul Sims and Lone Star. They're over at the Bailey's Horse Feeds, double of brushes, have jumped easily clear of those 2 elements.
Cracking Time, Joanne Earl up at the top end of the course, so just to wait news for them to come through. As we do, they're well clear of the U-Learn School of Motoring entry fence at 19. Harley Bob and Matt Hecking well clear of the park rails at 16.
Felicia Fagard, Emily King jumping well out over the flower box as Lone Star, Paul Sims, an enormous jump at the 8th. The frangible rails there, and they're now down in the Equitrek water. Jump very boldly clear and head on to the Aardvark Safaris open ditch. Guttershare next to start with Shane Rose. Shane riding for Kim Mercer and Rodney Bennett here for Australia. 49.5 the dressage score. In 6th position, 261 their number.
No problems through all 3 elements of the Vetzel rail, ditch and rails for Cracking Time and Joanne L. Next for Joanne will be the Whitchanger Barton Saddlery Decana at 23. Emily King, Volta de Vajard, just approaching the 6th, the Bailey's Horse Feeds, double of brushes. Wait news for them as we see Paul Sims and Lone Star approaching the Ultra Bed Shavings Viaduct table at 11. Get a share. Shane Rose, our next starter, just waiting at the start box. Cracking Time, Joanne L. Approaching the 25th, the Event Scotland Angled Brushes. Paul Sims at the House of Brewer, double of corners, these 2 corners on the right-hand option, 2 strides between. They're well clear of that. All came forward with a dressage score of 64.2. Fusel at 25A for Joanne L and Cracking Time. Just to wait news for them to represent. As we see, Moss Fajard and Emily King well clear of the Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance parallel at 8. Clear the 13th, that's Lone Star and Paul Sims as Cracking Time. Joanne L through the finish, unfortunately had picked up those 20 penalties late on the course. Got a shirt, Shane Rose up towards the 3rd, the dip back flower box at 3. 256. Harley Bell up towards the 20th, the Albert Bartlett vegetable box. Next to start will be Hannah Bate riding Jackie and Larry Taylor's and Cameron Pearce's Capital T for the 54.6 dressage. Matt Hecking, lovely ride through the Vetzel ditch and rails at 21, 22 A and B. Once for Jard, Emily King. We're wait news for Emily as they approach the House of Brewer double of corners. Emily over the first of the corners. Just to wait news for them at the second of those corners. And the news comes through. Clear there goes Gertrude Scher and Shane Rose up towards the Jules Bothies at 4AB. They clear both elements at the Bothies at 4AB. Lone Star Paul Sims into the Malcolm Group lock-in at 17 ace, swings across and boldly out over 17B.
Clearing the Event Rider Masters brush parallel, it's Shane Rose with Kim Mercer and Rodney Bennett's Guthrie Share for Australia. They approach the Bailey's horse feeds double of brushes now as Velitza Fagard and Emily King well clear of the Land Rover hanging log and the Land Rover Arrowhead. They'll turn their attention to the park rails and Matt Hecking and Harley Bell complete.
Good to share. Shane Rose well clear of the Bailey's horse feeds double of brush logs at 6AB. Shane now goes towards the log at 7. Capital T, Hannah Bate just awaits in the start box. 8-year-old Grey Gelding by Capitalist, 20 points on their card. As Lone Star Paul Sims at the top end of the course towards the Albert Bartlett vegetable box at 20.
Well, as Lone Star Paul Sims are having a lovely round. They're galloping on towards the Albert Bartlett vegetable box.
Capital T, Hannah Bate, they're away over the first, the Equitrek flower box at 1.
And Velitza Fagard up at the Malcolm Group lock-in with Emily King beautifully clear of the two elements there. This 13-year-old mare gallops on towards the James Jones and Sons log drop and timber cart. Lone Star, Paul Sims, nimbly clear of the Vetzel rail, ditch and rails at 21, 22 A and B.
Get a shirt, Shane Rose, riding for Kim Mercer and Rodney Bennett, well clear of the Equitrek lob spots and boats. They go up the hill towards the Udvox Forest open ditch at 10. Provisional in here for Cupido III, Emily Philp. They went round 10 minutes 38, pick up 23.6 time penalties. No jumping. So they finish on a 78.4 in the 2-star. Of the 11th gets a shirt. Silterbed Shavens Viaduct 4, Shane Rose as Lone Star Paul Sims comes towards the latter end of the course.
Well, next to start, it's Howick Freedom. Howick Freedom is owned by Lady Claire Howick and ridden by Emily Parker. Well, this 11-year-old gelding is out of Howick softly, softly, winner of the CCI 1-star here at Blair in 1999, ridden by a very youthful Craig Anderson then, who's now sitting to my right-hand side. What shall I say, not so youthful Craig?
Thank you very much, Claire. Lone Star Paul Sims jumps the final fence through the finish. Get to Shane Rose very quickly through the 14th, 15th, the Land Rover hanging log and the Arrowhead.
Well, Velitza Fagard is clear of the Witchanger Barton Saddlery Trakehner. Howick Freedom, Emily Parker, they jump at the BHS Scotland Shepherd's Hut, whilst Capital T and Hannah Bate Up at the 6th. No hesitation at the Bailey's Horse Feeds double of brushes.
Good to share Shane Rose. They're approaching the Malcolm Locken at 17 AB. As Capital T Hannah Bate disappear towards the log at 7 of the 3rd Herc Freedom, Emily Parker. That's Emily riding for Lady Claire Herc, the 11-year-old Bay Gelding by Cutheston Liberator.
Paul Sims and Lone Star clear jumping and 8th time across the country, so they take a score of 72.2 forwards to the show jumping, as Valitze Fagard and Emily King, they've just got the top spec final fling ahead of them. They jump it clear to complete, whilst Hoick Freedom, Emily Parker jump both of the Jules Bodies at 4A and B. Gutterer Shane Rose making the right-hand turn between the log drop and the timber cart, both of those elements sponsored by James Jones and Sons, as Capital T and Hannah Bate move on towards the Ultra Bed Shavings viaduct table, still climbing all the way up the hill.
Herc Freedom well clear of the 5th. That's the Brush Parallel. Next for them on course will the Bailey's Horse Feeds double of brushes at 6 AB. So will just reappear onto our monitor. Good to share Shane Rose. Now go up the park towards the Ulan School of Motoring entry fence. At 19 over the 6th goes Herc Freedom, Emily Parker. Herc Freedom not hanging about, got a great stride just like his mother did in 99.
Sophie Platt next to start. Sophie riding Caesar the 2nd. 68.1 dressage, 38th position after that first phase. And Sophie Caesar the 2nd, number 263, about to join us.
Herc Freedom well clear of the Scotland Charity Air Ambulance Parallel, boldly through the water complex, pops over the lob spot in the middle. And up the step, now over the C element for Herc Freedom. Emily Parker, Caesar the 2nd, away over the 1st. That's the Equicheck flower box at number 1. Gutterer Shane Rose through all 3 elements of the Vetcell rail, ditch and rails at 21, 22 AB.
Well, as the 2nd is jumped by Caesar the 2nd and Sophie Platt, Capital T and Hannah Bate still running very strongly. They jump the Land Rover hanging log, and now the Arrowhead move on to the park rails. Well, score in for Vilitz F. Vagard and Emily King, Craig.
Emily went round 9 minutes 33, well under the optimum time. Clear jumping, no time penalties, finished on a 47. Goes into the lead, provisionally into the CCI 2-star. Herc Freedom well clear of the House of Brewer, double of corners at 12 AB. Boldly down the hill towards the Bruder parapet wall at 13.
Well, as Caesar the 2nd and Sophie Platt jump the Jules Bodies at 4A and B. Next to start, it's another ride for Oliver Townend. This time he's riding for Stephen and Victoria Hazeltine and the Mitchell Fox Group, and he's riding a 7-year-old bay gelding, Tregilda. 52.1 their dressage score. That left them in 12th position after that first phase. And Oliver, he's already made the time once in this 2-star, so about to get underway with Tregilda. As over at the Malcolm Group Locken, Capital T and Hannah Bate jump their way clear of the 2 elements.
Flying through the 14th, 15th, Herc Freedom. That's the Land Rover hanging log and Arrowhead. As Gutterer Shane Rose jumps the final fence through the finish. Just see Hannah Bate, Capital T, approaching the James and Jones Sons log drop timber cart at 18 AB. Pops in down into the bottom of the dip, swings right-handed. Lovely big jump over the hay cart for Capital T. Glider, Oliver Townend, well clear of the second. The BHS Scotland Shepherd's Hut, Oliver now does the long climb up the hill towards the back flower box at number 3.
Tregilder and Oliver Townend then up to the third as the log at 7 has been jumped by Sophie Platt and Caesar the second. Ooh, a very big jump at the Scotland Air Ambulance parallel and almost unseating Sophie Platt there. So she just steadies up and looks to get her stirrup back. Well, you watched Emily Parker and Howick Freedom through the Malcolm Group Locken, Craig.
Yeah, Emily Parker, Howick Freedom not hanging about through all elements of the Malcolm Group Locken. A spear gelding by Catherine's Liberator always could eat up the ground. Well clear, Emily quickly away from the James Jones and Sons log drop timber cart at 18. Just strides up, eats the ground as they go up to the Ulearn School of Motoring entry fence at 19.
Clearing the Albert Bartlett vegetable box ahead of them, Capital T and Hannah Bate. And I should think Emily Parker and Howick Freedom just making up that bit of ground on Capital T and Hannah Bate. Absolutely flying on towards the Ulearn School of Motoring Aintree fence.
Tregilder, Oliver Townend, well clear of the ERM brush parallel at 5. And next start, another ride for Wills Oakton. This time riding Stephanie O'Neill's Ball Breaker SD. From forward with a very useful dressage of 47.8, which left them in 5th position overnight.
Caesar the second, Sophie Platt. They are up at the top of the hill by the House of Brewer, double of corners. Look to have jumped those 2 corners as Tregilder and Oliver Townend. Next obstacle for them will be the 2 elements of the Bailey's Horse Feeds. Double of brushes.
Howick Freedom, Emily Parker, bowl into the Vetzel Rails and Ditch at 21.22 AB. Emily on that homeward run as Capital T and Hannah Bate just ahead of Emily Parker.
And underway, it's Wills Oakton and Ball Breaker SD. They head on to the BHS Scotland Shepherd's Hut, the second of the 26 fences out on course. Well, Piltown colours, Bill Levitt for Australia, number 266. They've been withdrawn from the competition, so you won't be seeing them go cross country.
Capital T, Hannah Bate jumped the top spec final fling through the finish as Howick Freedom. Emily Parker comes towards the latter stages of the course. Ballbreaker SD, Wills Oakton climb up the hill towards the third on course. That's the dip back flower box.
Well, Howick Freedom, Emily Parker, foot perfect at the Event Scotland angled brushes. Emily and Howick Freedom look to have been going at a great pace across the country, and I think Emily may even be steadying up a little. Checks her watch and certainly not pushing for the finish flags. As next to go and last of this CCI 2-star, it will be Matthew Heath, another ride for him. He's riding Claire Davis's Lockroy. 57.3 the dressage score here, 22nd position after that first phase. They're number 265.
Tregilder, Oliver Townend, well clear of the House of Brewer double corners at 12 AB. As we see the second, Sophie Platt in and out the Malcolm Group lock-in at 17 AB. Ballbreaker SD well clear of the ERM brush parallel at 5.
Tregilder, Oliver Townend leaving the Bruder parapet wall behind them. Well, a couple of scores in. Firstly, for Shane Rose with Gutterer, they finish inside that optimum time. In fact, bang on the optimum time. They finish on their dressage score today of 49.5 and will take that score forward to the show jumping. They are into second place at the moment. And capital T, Hannah Bates, steady around for her. She picks up 21.2 time to take 75.8 into the show jumping tomorrow.
Lockroy, Matthew Heath up the hill towards the third, the dip back flower box. As we've just got the final horse out on course will be Lockroy and Matthew Heath.
Well, another score in, and I will hand this to you, Craig.
Herc Freedom, Emily Parker, provisional result in 9 minutes 20. I think probably the fastest horse round of the day. So they finished on that dressage score of 63.3 in this CCI 2-star. Great result there for Emily Parker and Herc Freedom. Again, 9 A, B, C, Ballbreaker, SD and Wills Oakton. Through 17 A, B goes to Gilda, Oliver Townend. That's the Malcolm Group locking behind them.
Well, as Caesar the second, Sophie Platt head on towards the Vetzel rails, ditch and rails. They're clear of the two fences there at 21 and 22 A and B. Ballbreaker SD and Wills Oakton approach the ultra bed shavings viaduct table, and Tregilda and Oliver Townend looking determined as they gallop on towards the Ulearn School of Motoring Aintree fence at 19.
Caesar the second, clear the 24th. That's the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole. As Ballbreaker SD, no problems for them at the House of Brewer double of corners at 12 AB. Chestnut Gelding, 8-year-old by Balou du Rocher. 47.8 was their dressage.
Caesar the second and Sophie Platt, well, right at the end of the course, just lining up for the two brushes. Jump well clear of them, 3 strides between the two brushes. They make their way on towards the top spec final fling.
Lockroy, Matthew Heath well clear of the Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance parallels of the 20th, goes to Gilda, Oliver Townend. He goes now towards the Vetzel rail ditch and rails at 21 and 22 AB. Ballbreaker, Wills Oakton, no problems to do both elements of the Land Rover hanging log and Arrowhead at 14 and 15.
Lockroy and Matt Heath take on the Aardvark Safaris open ditch as Tregilda and Oliver Townend, they are right towards the end of the course now, looking to those Witchanger Barton Sudbury Trakehner.
Lockroy, Matthew Heath approach the Ultra Bed Shavings Viaduct table at 11. You see Matt setting up the 8-year-old Grey Gelding.
Well, this gelding Lockroy still looks pretty full of running right at the top of the hill there. So they turn to the House of Brewer double of corners, jump the first of those. 2 strides, they're clear of the second, whilst Tregilda and Oliver Townend at the final combination on course pop clear of those 2 brushes.
Lockroy, Matthew Heath down towards the Bruder parapet wall at 13, jumps in towards the gardeners nicely through the Malcolm lock and goes Ballbreaker, SD to Gilda, Oliver Townend jump the final fence. That's the top spec final fling. Bring some times as soon as they come through. Lockroy, Matthew Heath approaching the Land Rover hanging logs at 14 and the Arrowhead at 15. Provisional result in here for Sophie Platt and Caesar the third. Went round 10 minutes 16, pick up 14.8 time penalties. No jumping, so finished on a 2-day score of 82.9 in this CCI 2-star. Ballbreaker SD, Wills Oakton not hanging about as he strides on to the Ulearn School of Motoring entry fence at 19. So just got these final 2 horses out on this 2-star track.
Lockroy and Matthew Heath. Neat, nimble jump at the frangible pin park rails at 16. Sees them gallop on to the Malcolm Group Locken. While this fence has jumped really well for these two-star competitors. Barrels in to the water with jump landing into the water. Then they go across and jumps and barrels on the far side. As Ball Breaker SD jumps the U-Learn School of Motoring Aintree fence and turns their attention to the Albert Bartlett vegetable box. Lockroy, Matt Heath at the Malcolm Group Locken. Jumps clear of the two elements. And you've got a score, Craig.
Yeah, this is for Oliver Townend and Tregilda. They went round 9 minutes 50, pick up 4.4 time penalties, finish a two-day score total of 56.5, goes provisional 7th place in the CCI 2 stars. Ball Breaker SD, Wills Oakland, Wills riding for Stephanie O'Neill. But both elements of the Vetzel ditch and rails at 21, 22 AB. Lockroy Clare still full of running as he heads up to the U-Learn School of Motoring entry fence at 19.
Well, yes, we talked about that opportunity to make up a bit of time from the 18th to the 19th on this two-star track. And certainly some of the horses that we've seen just perhaps need a bit of a breather, having jumped through a couple of combinations, but Lockroy is still firmly pricked, looking for the next challenge as he heads on to that U-Learn School of Motoring Aintree fence.
Ball Breaker SD, Wills Oakton approaching the Event Scotland angle brushes at 25 AB. Cool. Will just studies the chestnut gelding down, jumps the left-hand route. No problems there for Ball Breaker SD and Wills Oakton. Just got the top spec final thing to go.
Lockroy and Matthew Heath leave the Albert Bartlett vegetable box behind them. They gallop on to the Vetzel rails as Ball Breaker SD and Wills Oakton, they complete. Lockroy jumps the frangible rails, 2 strides down to the ditch, 1 stride over the rails at the B element of the 22nd. They gallop now to the Whitchanger Barton Saddlery Tricana. So this, our final CCI 2-star competitor out on course, has the last 3 fences to jump now as they clear the Whitchanger Barton Saddlery Tricana.
Lockroy well clear of the Clark Thompson Insurance Brokers Owl Hole at 24. Blair said Lockroy just got the 3 jumping efforts to go at 25 AB and 26. This grey gelding been full of running all the way around this Alec Lahore designed 5,300 metre track. Lockroy, Matthew Heath just lines up the brush shoulders of the final combination. No problems there for Lockroy, Matthew Heath. Matt riding for Claire Davis. Lockroy, Matthew Heath jumped the final fence through the finish. We'll bring you their time as soon as that comes through. Then we'll give you a rundown of the top placings in this CCI 2-star. We'll be doing a course change now before we move on to the CCI 3-star, due to commence at 15:50. So we're going through a quick course change before we get underway with the CCI 3-star. A time in for Ball Breaker SD and Wills Oakton. He went round 10 minutes and 10 seconds. 12.4 time penalties, finish on a 60.2 2-day total to go forward to show jumping tomorrow morning. That provisionally puts Wills into 8th place.
Well, so there's just one more time to come in for this CCI 2-star. But I think that Velitza Vegard and Emily King can't be overtaken by Lockroy and Matt Heath. So in fact that score is now in for Matt Heath with Claire Davis's Lockroy. They finish inside the optimum time. So they finish bang on that optimum time, remain on their dressage score of 57.3. And that goes into the top 10. Well, we'll bring you the top placings very shortly. Well, the top 10 in this CCI two-star competition going into show jumping tomorrow. In 10th place, it's Craig Barr for Great Britain with Marley III. They're on 60.6. In 9th, Will Zoakton and Ballbreaker SD on 60.2. 8th place to Matthew Heath, Lockroy, final competitors in this CCI two-star. They're in 8th on 57.3. 7th, Oliver Townend with Tregilda on 56.5. In 6th, Classic the 6th and Kirsty Johnston, 54.8. 5th place to Ninny French with Time for Harry on 54.2. 4th to Oliver Townend and Coy Traveller, 53.1. In 3rd place, Storm Straker with Well Designed on 50.8. 2nd, Shane Rose and Guta Rocher for Australia, they're on 49.5. And Emily King and Velitza Vegard will hold that lead as they go into the final phase, the show jumping tomorrow, on their score of 47.
So still lots going on at the Blair Castle Equitrack International Horse Trials and Country Fair. The main arena just getting ready for the British show jumping competition due to commence at 4 p.m. Also show jumping in the Tilt and Banvie arenas. It's been going on all day, so do pay them a visit and also visit the great array of trade stands down in the main area. We're just going through a quick course change before we due to get underway at 15:50 with the CCI 3-star.